I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Mercedes Schlapp. And Mercedes, right now we're joined by a mutual friend and a real fighter for freedoms and liberty and against government corruption. He is Tom Fitton, president of Judicial Watch, and he's got a brand new book out in 2 weeks. It's available for purchase now, called Rights and Freedoms in Peril. And boy, are they ever. Tom Fitton, always good to talk to you, sir. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, both of you. How are you all doing?
We're good, but we're deeply concerned about more election interference from Jack Smith, the special counsel. He submitted this brief detailing his version of events with regard to Donald Trump's participation in January 6th. And, of course, the judge has unsealed this now, just, 33 days before Election Day. Tom, have you ever seen anything like this before, this brazen interference in an election?
Yeah, it's the October non-surprise. Judge Chutkan, who's the Democrat judge here in Washington, D.C., and Jack Smith, who is an employee of the Biden-Harris-Garland Justice Department, colluded to try to interfere in the election. I don't know how else to describe it. When you look at the document, they don't describe crimes.
Right.
They describe First Amendment protected discussions within the purview of the presidency about disputing an election. And what Jack Smith's key issue is, Trump should have known he lost.
Yeah.
Well, that's a political statement. That's not a fact.
Right. And by the way, Tom, I mean, if set aside all your preconceptions about January 6th and the events after the 2020 election, which I think by any measure everyone can objectively agree was the most extraordinary election we've ever had in our lifetimes because of the pandemic, and the rules in so many states had been changed in my opinion, very suspicious ways. But if you're the President of the United States and you have sworn to protect and defend the Constitution, and in your heart of hearts you believe that the presidential election and the means to determine the participants in the Electoral College vote had been determined in an illegal fashion, then isn't it your duty as President of the United States to do what you can to try to right that wrong?
Yeah, I thought, and I still think to this day, President Trump had a legal obligation, a positive obligation under his oath of office to pursue these claims. And just because you dispute whether there was any basis to do so is just baloney. Right. This is what this document is. It's a campaign document. It isn't a legal document in the sense that it's designed to advance the Biden-Harris campaign or the Harris-Biden campaign. And it's designed to thwart Trump. Also, it's also designed to make sure that no one disputes the 2024 election if there's a reason to dispute it, because this is what's going to happen to them.
So, Tom, let me ask you this. What happens next? So they unseal this 165-page motion. What can happen in the next 30 days? What will this mean?
It's not clear to me because Chutkan has kind of thrown all the rules out the window. They're litigating now whether the prosecution can proceed in light of the immunity decision by the Supreme Court, which in my view prohibited even the release of this. I mean, if you rule a president has presidential immunity for official acts in office, does that mean you can start gathering evidence from everyone who arguably and plausibly could assert that, well, you can't ask me these questions because he has immunity about them?
Yeah.
The whole process is fruit of the poison tree, and the evidence being presented here, to a degree it's evidence of anything. What I'm reading in that document is gossip.
Well,
yes.
And everyone involved, Tom, everybody knows that Donald Trump will not have his day in court. This is 100% the prosecutor's case. The accused has not had the guy who's supposed to be presumed innocent, he has not had his ability to respond, and he will not have his chance to respond until after Election Day. So this entire thing is baked in the cake.
I don't pretend to be a lawyer, but my understanding is when someone prosecutes you and files an indictment, your right is to say, well, I object to this indictment. I'm going to move to dismiss it. That isn't what Chutkan is pushing.
Right.
he filed a new indictment, and rather than allowing Trump to dismiss it, she authorized the Smith operation to file what is in essence a political argument as to why immunity doesn't apply, and put all this evidence on the record. It's a wild violation of Trump's civil rights, but it's par for the course for these people. I've seen them up close. I testified to the grand. Yeah. I mean, I testified to the grand jury. It was 4 hours of. I kind of say it was like being before an MSNBC show for 4 hours.
Wow. I got to ask you, for Chunkin, like, there's no repercussion, right? Like, she can do whatever she wants to do. I mean, is that the case of where we are? Like, I keep thinking that our judges have become the most powerful positions you can possibly have in our country because they dictate the terms. I mean, we've seen this with Judge Merchant up in New York, too.
Yeah, there's no consequences for being overturned and slapped back by the Supreme Court. Evidently, she doesn't care what the Supreme Court ruled, and is allowing Jack Smith to still abuse his powers in an anti-constitutional way. Jack Smith doesn't care. Jack Smith, he's sitting pretty no matter what happens. He's got his career set out for him. Yeah. The anti-Trump prosecutor. Same goes for the DOJ officials. And if I were President Trump or the next honest president, assuming he wins, I would require a criminal investigation of how his civil rights were abused under color of law by this gang.
That's right. I agree, because, again, it needs to be repeated. If they can do this to Donald Trump, they can do this to any of us. Which brings us, by the way, to your book. Now, it's due out on October 15th. It's called Rights and Freedoms in Peril, an investigative report on the left's attack on America. I mean, this is what you do every day over at Judicial Watch, but tell me specifically about what we should expect in this book in terms of what you've been investigating, what you've laid out here about how dangerous things are right now with the lawfare that we've seen.
Yeah, I mean, we have the left kind of attacking all these core institutions to our republic. We have the First Amendment under attack through the censorship. We have really the right to select a president, the civil rights of Americans, not only Trump but others involved in the election dispute, being attacked for questioning and disputing an election, something that's never happened before, where Americans are being jailed or facing threat of jail for exercising the First Amendment rights and other duties and responsibilities, as we talked about with Trump. And we have kind of the whole notion of America under attack through the invasion. And think of all the lies associated with COVID that allowed our liberties to be constrained in unprecedented ways. And the left is attacking the Supreme Court, all these institutions that are designed to protect our liberties. Of course, the core issue being the attack on the Constitution generally, undermining core components of the Constitution. And then, we have a right to have a government that is responsive to the theory that, the American people have a say in how the government's composed through voting rights. And I'm sorry, when you embrace voter fraud, you're attacking voting rights.
Yeah, well said.
What you're saying is that legitimate votes, they don't count. Right. So when your vote is stolen through fraud and election gamesmanship, Jack Smith, your civil rights are under attack as well.
Yeah, and at the same time, the right of free speech to be able to speak out against it and to point out what you see as an assault on our voting rights. Tom Fitton, I thought you had said it all in your last book, A Republic Under Assault, but clearly they continue to double down, the left does, and that's why we need you on that wall. I appreciate you writing this book. I'm looking forward to reading it, and we'll have you back to talk about it. Again, it's called Rights and Freedoms in Peril, and it's available now. The book, it's available for pre-sale. The book comes out October 15th. Thanks, Tom.